So if you find yourself with a lifelong problem with addiction or overeating, like you're a stress eater or something like this, then there might be a simple solution to getting this sorted out for you. You see, what happens is we have three types of fat on the body. The first type is the subcutaneous fat, which is basically there to protect us and helps us float in water. It's something that we can handle up to about 22 pounds of it without any problem. So people can have obesity even and still be metabolically healthy. But the problems start when we start to get visceral fat and a fatty liver. So fatty liver is something that happens from eating toxins. So alcohol, fructose, which is particularly bad because it's in probably 70% of processed food in all different names that they label it to hide it. But basically fructose is treated as a toxin, so it goes directly to the liver and it stops the liver from producing its own glucose. Therefore, the plant's been very clever. It's also added some laxative in there, and it's also basically designed itself so that the fruit is ripe in the autumn, so that the animals are going to be gorging out on it and it can benefit them as a symbiotic relationship. But that's a problem because the sugar comes in as a nice treat. The animal doesn't know it's going to have a laxative in, can't taste it. It's the same with the fructose. You can't really taste it. It's sweet, but basically it comes in and it goes directly to the liver, and that causes a problem. Now that's up to you to work out what to do with that. The real problem I'm concerned about is the visceral fat. Now the visceral fat is directly caused by chronic stress. Not acute stress. You see, the difference is acute stress is any stress that's lasted less than 10 minutes. Anything over 10 minutes, what happens is the brain basically says, okay, look, this is a real problem, right? We want to avoid this. It's really bad for us. We don't want to be using up all of this energy. We basically want to swerve that thing next time. So what it does is it puts a little log inside of the brain into an area called the limbic system. Inside the limbic system, you've got two particular things that deal with this. One is a logbook of all of those traumatic things that's happened to us in our lives, and it only gets crossed off like an account system. It gets crossed off once we know it's safe. The second thing is called the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is the fear response in the brain, and what the amygdala is doing, it's basically looking for signals from the body, from the hippocampus, from the prefrontal cortex, and it's saying, okay, is it safe, or do we need to trigger off a fight or flight response? So what happens is when we've got this chronic stress issue, that gets logged into the hippocampus, which is the memory log. And whenever we see something in the environment, what happens is that sends a signal to the amygdala, and it says, right, trigger off the fight or flight response. But the problem is when we've got chronic stress, when we've been traumatized by PTSD, that stress signal doesn't get switched off. So occasionally it might when we sleep, occasionally it will, but the window of it closes and closes as time goes on. So what happens is when we eat food, instead of that food basically going down and getting used up, it gets stored as extra fat in the body. And that's the visceral fat that's the problem. You see, the problem is when visceral fat starts to get used up, it releases a lot of toxins. It causes a lot of problems around the non-vital organs, things like ovulation, sperm production, in the genital regions. The kidneys, they're basically going to be squeezed with this extra fat, and it squeezes all the nerves and fibers around there, and that actually causes a lot of problems, long-term health problems.